Welcome to the exercise classroom, anatomical, biomechanical and practical exercise education. Today's lesson, hip joint abduction. Introduction. Hip joint abduction on the hip abduction machine is an isolation exercise targeting the outer thigh and hip muscles. It is performed seated, with resistance applied to the outer legs, moving them outward against the machine's pads. This exercise is uniquely effective for isolating the gluteus medius and minimus, and it is often used in both strength training and rehabilitation settings. Alternate names for this exercise include machine hip abduction and seated hip abduction. Body contour benefits. Regularly performing hip abduction can enhance the shape and firmness of the outer hips, contributing to balanced leg aesthetics. Strengthening these muscles also improves the lateral contour of the hip area, which can enhance lower body symmetry and proportion. The movement. Joint action. Hip abduction, where the leg moves laterally away from the midline of the body. Functional benefits. Strengthening hip abductors improves lateral stability, enhances athletic performance in side-to-side movements, and supports hip health by balancing muscular development around the joint. Exercise execution. Starting position. Sit on the hip abduction machine with your back against the pad, feet placed firmly on the footrests, and the outer thighs positioned against the resistance pads. Grip the handles for stability. Movement. Push outward against the pads, moving your legs apart in a smooth motion until you reach your maximum comfortable range of motion. Ending position. Pause briefly at peak abduction, then slowly return to the starting position under control. Proper technique. Maintain upright posture with your core engaged throughout the movement. Avoid using momentum to swing the legs outward, instead, focus on controlled muscle contractions. Range of motion. Work through a full, comfortable range without forcing the legs beyond their natural limits. This ensures effective engagement while reducing strain on the hip joint. Common mistake. The most common mistake is leaning the torso forward or backward to increase movement range, which reduces isolation of the hip abductors and may strain the lower back. Muscle mechanics. The movement begins with concentric contraction of the gluteus medius and minimus to abduct the hip. At peak abduction, a brief isometric hold maximizes recruitment. The return phase involves eccentric contraction of the same muscles to control leg movement back to the starting position. Primary movers. The primary movers in this exercise are the gluteus medius and gluteus minimus, both responsible for hip abduction and stabilizing the pelvis during leg movement. Other muscle roles. Antagonists. The adductor muscle group works in opposition to control and counteract hip abduction. Synergists. The tensor fasciae latae assists the gluteus medius and minimus in hip abduction. Stabilizers. Core muscles, including the obliques and transverse abdominis, help stabilize the torso during the movement. Biomechanical considerations. Seat positioning. Adjust the seat so your knees are aligned with the pivot point of the machine for optimal joint mechanics. Controlled movement. Keep the motion slow to ensure targeted muscle activation and avoid momentum. Pelvic stability. Maintain a neutral pelvis to prevent compensation from other muscles. Training effectiveness and optimization. Peak contraction hold. Hold briefly at peak abduction to maximize muscle fiber recruitment. Progressive overload. Gradually increase resistance over time to promote strength gains. Variation. Occasionally adjust seat width settings to slightly change muscle emphasis. Safety and injury prevention. Avoid overstretching. Do not force legs beyond their natural range to avoid hip joint strain. Maintain alignment. Keep knees, hips, and pelvis aligned throughout the movement. Start light. Begin with moderate resistance to prevent muscle or joint stress. Variations and alternatives. Band cross abduction. A resistance band variation allowing for greater range of motion and portability. Bridge hip abduction. Combines glute activation in a bridge position with hip abduction, increasing total glute engagement. Side lying hip abduction. A bodyweight variation performed lying on your side, excellent for home training or rehabilitation work. Mastering hip abduction strengthens the outer hips, improves lateral stability, and enhances functional lower body performance.